What's going on, my creative collective? Welcome to your creative unconscious reading. It's a little bit late. I had one recorded for yesterday, and then it just didn't work the same that I thought it would. Um, and I went for a nice run this morning. So we're gonna hop in now and do this. So it'll be coming out a little bit later than usual. So I appreciate your patience in advance. But yeah, let's dive in and see what Spirit has to say. I got a new deck yesterday. Now, it's an interesting story because I kept thinking to myself, actually, I'll show you. It's this one here. This one here, and I'd been looking at a new deck, and this one in particular, because I have her Miracles Now deck, and I also, Gabrielle Bernstein got me through a really rough period before I was into her work anyway, but between, I would say, 2016 and 2019, a lot of the things that I learned from her really helped me get through that. But nonetheless, I had been looking at a new deck, and I thought to myself, okay, I would love this new deck, and but anytime I would look at a new one, I would be like, wait. Like there was something that would constantly say, wait. 111 was just on the time. Might be confirmation for somebody, but yes. So I said to myself, just wait. Like my intuition was like, wait. And then, I would keep thinking like, well, and none of them were speaking to me really after that. So I was like, okay, I'll just wait. And then I walked into a home sense, just wandering around running errands yesterday. And I found this, and it was significantly marked down in there. And that occasionally happens. There's sometimes that's the case. But wouldn't you know it, like a third of the price. And it's not to say like, look for the discounts, but this is where like Spirit so supports wherever you are. Right now I'm saving for a move coming up, and there's going to be a lot of activity in a short period of time, and I know that, but it was just this feeling of being held, right? And I feel like that's kind of like, I love the idea of the universe has your back. And it's like, because it does, number one. And number two, even, last week on Friday, not this past Friday, but the one before that. So the 21st. Nope. I'm looking at the October calendar. Sorry. Anyways, 222 on the time. It was not this past Friday, but the one before. And I was walking through a bookstore, and I found a Louise Hay book called Embrace Your Power. I think it's called Embrace Your Power. And I have it on my e-reader, but I hadn't read it yet. So I didn't know there was a chapter about, the topic of harassment, and a trigger came up for me related to that on the weekend. Things that are being healed and whatnot. And it's such a loving thing to experience triggers now after you just ride out the emotion and sit with it, and you sit in the dark, right? You don't sit there and set up shop, but you don't run from it either because of the lessons that it has to teach you. Everything Aligns on Instagram shared a video by Lori Ladd talking about this, where like when you run from the dark, how are you learning? How are you learning from it? Don't set up shop there and make it your home. But you also have to learn from it. So anyways, it was a particularly significant trigger. And the chapter in that book, I almost started crying when I saw it because I didn't realize that Louise Hay spoke about that. And so it's almost like looking for guides and protection. And just do remember, like it's not just the title of a card deck. It's like a way of being, right? The universe has your back. So it's really fully believing that. And how does that manifest for you? And that's almost like, I feel like that's kind of in the spirit of this reading, to be completely honest, right? Like the universe has your back. And I couldn't foresee or foretell exactly how decks like this would come to me, right? There was this one too that I picked up. I haven't worked with this one as much, but they're both decks that I've been looking at for a very long time. And they just they showed up, and in a way that was like perfect, like just perfect, right? Because I'm, again, just being more conservative with spending and things like that. But the universe does have your back. I think about the Louise Hay book, and it was almost like an encouragement to tell my truth, to speak that truth, that I don't have to hide the truth of things that have happened to me in the past anymore. And just that feeling of being truly and completely held, right? And there's an affirmation that I wrote down last night before sleep. And it is, I am ready and willing to give all of myself to a partner, passion, or or to a partner. Yeah, here we go. I am ready and willing to give up it's like chicken scratch because I was writing it in the dark. I am ready and willing to give all of myself to a person I love and places I adore, doing all that I love such that my authentic self shines. And that you'll probably see in tomorrow's affirmations. But it came to me as I was laying there starting to fall asleep. It just like it dropped in because I was like, man, like I keep thinking about how, I would love to have a feeling of like giving all of myself to things, and there's even business and things like that. They talk about this in terms of like die empty, right? Although forgive the macabre language and framing of that, but it's that idea of giving your all to something. And also that spirit of reciprocity. And that to me was just like, it cracked open a little bit more yesterday. And it's just, this is such a profound period of healing. And for people who are saying like the astrology isn't real, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, really? Can you tell me then why Chiron is making a transit with this new full moon coming up and why all of these things are coming up and it's a Chiron in Aries? Like, can somebody tell me that, right? Like it's all of these things that work together in service to your healing. But don't be afraid don't be afraid of the baptism from within. Because when you really meet love on the path, right? When you really find that, and it awakens that feeling in you, regardless of whether it's for a person or for, a job, if you're, doing that kind of thing, or if you're already in a relationship, like it's like wherever this meets you, when you see that thing, that person, that place, that whatever it is for you, you realize that there's so many things that you've put in the way of love, in the way of being loving, in the way of being able to receive love. And so the universe can have our back, but we also have to open that up too. We have to open that up. We have to open ourselves up. And what that means is different for everybody, because it's not just, it's not just about bringing down walls if you're not ready. It's not just about doing those things. You truly have to be ready. You truly have to have the feeling of healing take over. You truly have to have that in place to move mountains, not just externally, but the ones that you've made inside too. So if you found that, if that has been awakened in you because of, a person or a situation, I'm so excited for you. But just know too, like the universe has got your back either way. So I'm going to use that to close. So we're going to take a look here. And again, if you haven't checked out Gabrielle Bernstein's work, I highly recommend it. It's excellent. That was one of my first big introductions, in addition to Marianne Williamson, to A Course in Miracles. So we'll dive in here and see. But I feel like this is like invocations and invitations for Spirit to truly have our back through healing traumas that are large and through traumas that are smaller, right? There's no scale really, but healing hearts, healed hearts, that's what we're looking for, right? And even if it's just open, this right on top of this affirmation deck here, sitting in the corner, was this one here. I am open and receptive to love, and that's all of its forms. I'll read that to you here. Life is always trying to love you, but you need to be open to see it. Start this, right? Start this as a journal practice. I could make it easier for life to love me by. I could make it easier for life to love me by, and I'll put that here. So, Spirit, can you give us some, and you know what, I have a spread planned, but I'm just kind of going with my intuitive inclinations and just how Spirit's talking through and the channeling and things like that. So we're going to dive into this because I had an idea for a spread, and it's kind of coming through again as I fell asleep last night and wrote that affirmation. So we'll see where this takes us. Spirit, what messages do you have for my creative unconscious collective? Endurance and rock. I'm almost getting the vision of wherever you are, it may have been hard to get there and a struggle to survive at different points, but don't forget to look to the starlight that surrounded you the entire time. The view is amazing, but you can come down from the mountain now, right? Like there's this, like, I see this as like endurance. You know your strength. It's okay to come down from the mountain now. It's okay. You're safe, right? This reiteration of safety. And not out of like, it takes a lot of work, not out of that at all. It's that you deserve to know what it means to be with the community in the valley. You deserve to know what it means to be to be loved and like really loved by somebody, and to love someone too, right? To love someone too. You deserve to know that. So it's okay to come down from the mountain. Spirit, what messages do you have for my creative unconscious collective, please? Yeah, clarity, mountain. These messages of mountains, moving mountains, all of it. Spirit, what additional messages? I'm going to pull one more. The thing that I learned from, something I went through in 2016 and that kind of broke open in a bigger way was that when you lock yourself away, it's not just that people can't love you, but you fail to see the love that's healthy. You fail to see love that supports you because you're on the lookout for something else. And I was talking to a friend yesterday evening about it as well. And I realized this is the longest preamble to a reading. So if it's pissing people off, I'm very sorry, but it's coming through. So I was speaking to a friend yesterday about it and, the ways that I thought, well, I don't want people to think that I'm like the person that did these things. And I don't want to be like that at all. As a trans masc person, that's a concern for me because I embody more masculinity externally than not. So healing for me has been integrating these two parts, and the non-binary aspect as well. As a non-binary trans person, I'm in between both. So it's a balance, right? It's a beautiful balance, but not wanting to be like the person that hurt me. So I kind of shut myself off and closed myself and tucked myself away. And my friend, this is my Aries friend, so love that fire. So, she said, she like scrunched her eyebrows like Sam the Eagle, if you know the Muppets, and, she said like, why is it, like, why are you making yourself unlovable? No one thinks this. No one believes this of you, but you're using that as a way to justify to justify an unlovability. And I share this just to say, like, it was such a shift for me in terms of that particular thing from 2016 because it had followed through for so long. And the reality is we are so lovable, but there are so many things that we put in the way of that. And that was a massive shift for me. It's like that, I don't want to say like it opened the floodgates, but like in a way it kind of did. And I had all of these dreams that related to that as well. And, in one of them, there was it was just so interesting. It was like, but anyways, I won't ramble on about that. I just wanted to put this out there and say like, don't let traumas or hurts from the past become the things that make you think you're unlovable, because there will be people that love you very dearly and deeply, but you first have to try. You first have to put yourself out there in a way that may feel really uncomfortable. Sometimes there's aspects of trauma that touch that, so it's about being a lot more gentle with yourself. But don't be afraid to say, wow, I really am feeling something here. It doesn't make sense to me, but I'm feeling something here. And it feels amazing. And it feels like it's in the constellation of love. It feels like it's in the constellation of joy. It feels like, so whatever that is, don't be afraid to approach it. You don't have to like compare your path and journey to other people's and say, damn it, I'm not doing it right. You're doing it perfectly and beautifully for exactly where you need to be, right? Comfort and hearth. So this, I think it's almost like, it's like, what I'm seeing here is like the way that we control the fire within, right? The fire within can control it. It's like it can heat a home, but it can also burn up a home if you're not cleaning the chimney, right? So that kind of idea, like that sort of maintenance. And I think too of a dream that I had after that trigger where I was engulfed in flames, and I was engulfed in flames, but not hurt by them. So it's almost like this fire that was, and you can see it in two different ways. You can see that as being engulfed in something completely, or rising up from the ashes like a phoenix. So it's about how you perceive it, right? And I think the fire is coming through here because it's about how you perceive it, right? Comfort is the result of a fire that's tamed, a fire that's worked with. And this is also a sense of home. So you could be expanding your sense of home in the world. And again, it's like when you're on the mountain for so long and you're in that hermit mode, whether self-imposed or the result of a spiritual awakening, eventually you will have to come back down, right? I'm hearing a song, When You Come Back Down, by Nickel Creek, I think it is. Let's see where this spread takes us today, though. Okay. That's hilarious. I just split the deck. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is what just came out. Like that just fell out. So we have the Lovers, the Nine of Cups, the Ace of Pentacles, Ten of Cups, the Sun, and the Two of Cups, the Knight of Pentacles. Jesus. Yeah, you're a little worried. That's a lot of happy. That's a lot of happy. So that tells me a lot, right? But think about it this way. How many times, and this could be from grade school, this could be from situations that you've experienced, any number of things. How often did you let circumstances in your life convince you that you were unlovable or that there was something you had to compensate for? Yeah, we're starting with the worry because that's really true. That's so true. It's almost like it's like the little things that get in your head, that get in your head. And it's not just about getting out of your head. It's about looking at each of these swords and saying, no, thank you. That thought is untrue. It's CBT or DBT tools, whichever one. But it's like looking at the thoughts. Each of these represents a specific worry. So if you're looking for a practical way through, write down the specific worries that you have. This is also an Abraham Hicks process, where it's like you tease out the positive of that. Feel it. Do not deny it. Don't bypass this stuff. But it's also about looking at that and saying, there's another way to see this. And it's about being relentlessly optimistic if you have to be. Some people really want to be miserable. Let them be miserable. They won't understand your inclination towards joy, and you do not have to explain that. I've been through a lot of things in my life, and people might say, well, why are you, like, they might almost get pissed when you're choosing to make meaning of something that is positive and that keeps your heart open, because you see that that's what you're here for. I've nearly died 3 times, 3 separate times. I am meant to be here for a purpose, right? So even if you go to those places that are a little bit darker, don't be afraid to come back, because you're here and that means something. That means something, right? So again, if you have these thoughts, and it's like write down the specific ones and entertain the thoughts of, if this is specific to you and being hard on yourself, entertain the thoughts of, what if this wasn't true? Like, what if I wasn't a horrible person? What if I did deserve joy? And then follow that from there. Then what? Then what? Then what would happen? If I did deserve joy, then what? Well, then these things wouldn't be true. Then what? Right? Don't do this in isolation if you need to do it with a therapist or counselor or help. But it's almost like that's how the 9 of Swords is coming across here, right? And I get to, like, I'm hearing the song My Own Worst Enemy by the band Lit. It's like it's almost like that sense of like being your own worst enemy, because the swords just sit there unless they're tended to, right? The swords just sit there. So it's like there's like a way you have to work with them, and that strikes me as more pentacle energy. But like, look at that. This is what and like when you don't take care of the worry, you push away love, you push away people, you push away, and like your heart wants to be open. Otherwise, we wouldn't constantly move towards things and people and situations that can help to heal us, right? So, Spirit, what additional messages do you have for my creative unconscious collective? I feel like by virtue of the experience I had, I'm tapping into folks who have kind of seen some shit or been through some trauma. So just first and foremost, make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, and don't deny yourself help, okay? Just pinky promise me that. I do that with kids at work all the time. Pinky promise me that shit, that you won't do this in isolation or alone, right? You may not have a huge circle of friends or a group of people around you, but you can at least reach out so that you're not alone in dealing with it, because that's an act of self-care and self-worth. Page of Wands. And the Knight of Swords wanted to come out as well. It's like a clarity of direction, and that meets with this beautiful little, it's almost like a match. Like I'm just seeing a match. Like you recognize that you have a match. You have fire that's been untouched and unlit. And it's almost about allowing that fire to, allowing that fire to be born. I have a feeling I might know what it's related to, if this is relationship related. I feel like it's very centered around that. Holy shit, like for reals. But it could also just be that you're moving into a different place where it's less of ruled by head and far more by heart. I think of the Queen of Cups, it's coming across as like there might be a person who's kind of awoken this energy in you, or there might be a situation where you have thought, you know what, I'm not giving the best of myself. Why? Why is the best of me somewhere else? What have I been doing to construct the best of me as a thing that exists outside somewhere else, that is in a, that's running away? And not running away we get into the, runner chaser vibes in spiritual communities often, but this is about, I think it's almost like the fears that you had they're not unfounded, but you have to choose. You have to choose to do something different. This Eight of Wands is like loud, loud, loud. It's very loud. But I feel like that's kind of the way through, is like you have to take action. You have to take action. And if you've been told that your fire and your capacity for rebirth and transformation, I think about the dream that I had, right? Where it was like orange flames surrounding me and I was finding my way, but then the flames became me. And it's like it wasn't an extension of, people might say like it's anger and all of that stuff, but it was so much more a rebirth. It was a rebirth energy. And that's where it's like that kind of fire you can then heat a home with, you can heat a heart, you can do so much with it, but you've got to come in from the cold that you might have placed yourself into, right? You might have, and this can even be beliefs about deserving, whether you deserve love or feel like you do. Ace of Cups on the bottom, perhaps. Yeah, whether you feel like you deserve love. There may have been conflict, fearing success, and a little bit about what other people think. Six of Wands, Five of Wands. So you approach very small. And this is almost like acts of service. That it's like coming across as acts of service or something along those lines, where it's like you give in that way in the hopes that people will see you, but then maybe they don't. So you feel like this sense of conflict within. That's a whole word. But we all get into these patterns, and I feel like you're freeing yourself from these patterns because of love. Because of love. Temperance on the bottom. Okay, I'm going to start to put some here. I realize, but this is where, oh, I see. Oh, I get it. You just needed to make sure that I knew that this is where you want to go. Well, go have your new beginning. What you went through is pain that was not without purpose, but you have to let go and see yourself as being worth that. And I think you do. Wow. So there's a little bit of destiny and fate here. Shiza. I mean, realistically, like I can relate to that a lot. Holy fuck, yes. But like, so you see the 10 of Swords and the 9 of Wands, like it's as over as you want it to be, right? The 9 of Wands is upholding that energy of I want to say like not retreat. Like this is striking me as moving on from this, right? Moving on from this may not have been the best of times, but you're making the best of it. And that's where I think fate comes in. Like destiny is at play here. Destiny is definitely at play. So I have to ask myself and you, like, how are you, like, is there something that you've that, like, how is this, I'm almost getting that this is like serving you, this defensiveness. And I can relate to that, where it's like the defensiveness, it means that you won't be hurt in the end. It means that you're not going to be, wrecked by something. It means that, you're not going to look stupid. You're not going to feel dumb. You're not going to, but like, I don't know. I think that, and again, I reference this Alan Cohen book, Soul and Destiny. It's not about specificity, right? It's about when destiny knocks, are you willing to answer? And when we think about destiny and trauma, we can feel like there's like FOMO, big time FOMO. Like, I'm going to miss out if I don't heal fast enough and I don't do it perfectly. People are just going to be, fuck it, right? They're whatever. They're going to, but the thing is that those are thoughts too, right? And it's less of looking at what you lack and more about asking, how can I heal through this to become the most loving person towards myself and other people? How could 2-3 on the time? How can I do that? How can I work with that energy, right? And instead of saying, what is this here to teach me, and actually writing about it and integrating that, it's like you have to let that go, right? You have to let go of the need to be anything other than in your best emotional self. And that's like the release here. But this is telling me a lot about what you want to embrace. Like, this is a full life. Like 10 of Cups and Queen of Cups, that strikes me as, and especially with the Ace of Cups and the 8 of Wands, this is like life partner energy that you're moving towards. If this is about relationship, if this is related to work, this is about things that will really fulfill you and fill your cup. Not just a little bit, but in a way that's like major arcana balanced. Major arcana balanced. Okay? And this is about you moving forward. And I feel this is a little bit about like, feel the fear and do it anyway. That's one of the overarching themes that I'm getting here, right? Feel the fear and do it anyway. What's the worst that could happen? People make fun of you? Well, I can tell you, people do that all the time. People do that all the time. They're pretty ruthless sometimes, but that's their karma. That's their destiny to work with. That's their energy that they take on and adopt. That's theirs to work with. That's not your problem. right? It can be scary because when we want people to like us, when they don't, that's what it feels like, right? But that's something, it's like an assumption that needs to come down. It's an assumption that needs to come down. Because again, like heart-centered offering coming up underneath that. So it's like, how are you holding yourself back from offering the best of your heart? So, Spirit, can you clarify this Nine of Cups, please? I'm the devil. Some Capricorn energy. I'm hearing, oh, wow. So it's like maybe there's a little bit about your power here. It's like you're looking to someone else, you're looking to other situations to show you about your power, but you've had it all along, and denying this, denying your light, denying your power really only takes from you, and it disconnects you from what's actually being said from spirit. This is like where it's like, this is what's happening. You get intuitive hits about something. You understand something at a really deep level. You're intuitively connected. Your emotions are flowing, right? In a way that's allowing you to truly see, and not just like looking outside of you and identifying objects. This is like seeing patterns that have hurt you. This is seeing self-defeating patterns. This is, it was outlined. So Christina from Sassy Scorpion Tarot, love that channel. She talked about this as like a fear of rejection. I was like, oof, yeah, yeah. And it's just like, but it's like, what is it that gets in the way of you fully integrating the higher knowledge and wisdom that's trying to break through, right? Because again, holy fuck, this is insane. Like, I shouldn't use the word insane. I should say it's really intense. Sorry. Inclusive language is really important to me, so I apologize. 2626 on the time. Six of Cups in the Wheel of Fortune. Destiny again. So honestly, like, I feel like, I know that this is a lot of cards, but there's like a storyline that keeps coming out here, and it's repeating cards. So if you don't like the number of cards that I use, that's fine, deal with it. But I feel like this Devil card here, it's like the stories that you're telling yourself that keep you trapped. These chains are very loose. They can step away anytime, but they choose not to, right? So it's like asking yourself, how do you benefit from trying to control opportunities? How do you benefit from feeling like there's a tap that someone turned off on your good, right? Because that too is a form of control. Disbelieving in the fact that the universe has your back is a form of control, because you're trying to protect yourself, right? So it's like, instead of being the active participant that spirit is inviting you to be, right? You can go from like wanting to this is like, it's like suspended in that, like, instead of, how do I word this, spirit? It's like when you write down what you want, that's great, but when there's nothing done to go towards that, it has to do with a fundamental belief that you have, right? How are you stymieing your fire, right? I'm hearing Othello. What the hell? Othello. I'm not necessarily a Shakespeare buff. I do quote some lines to some of my friends jokingly, but Othello, I don't know. Anyways, but this to me it's coming across as like wanting. And it's not for nothing, because I feel like there may have been ways that people have taken from you for a really long time that made you feel like perhaps, and taken from you in the sense that these are thoughts and perceptions, right? So it's like the perception of your power. Oh, sorry, I hit the microphone. So the perception of your power may have been something that could not see the light of day, because it may have been scary. To stand in your power is to say to people, these are my needs, and this is acceptable treatment. This is not acceptable treatment. So in order to protect yourself, you would just sit in this Three of Swords place. But the thing is that, and the thing about what I think about this in terms of first aid training that I've received. So when first aid training happens, they say not to remove the thing that is puncturing the body, right? Because it will cause more problems if there's no adequate medical aid at that time to treat it. So what I think about this is like, you may just stay in place, right? You may just sit in place with these sitting in your heart, breaking your heart over and over again. Patterns, looking for people. Like, I was talking to my friend last night about this, and just thinking about how many people I had dated and had experiences with, and they could not love me the way that I needed to be loved, right? And this is like vulnerable making to admit, and I really don't care what people think. But it's just like, when you pick people that cannot love you, that just can't, It's a pattern. It's a pattern, and you have to be able to see it eventually, where things cease to work over and over again. So you have to look at it and say, okay, why? Why? But if you sit because you're like, well, this is really uncomfortable and I don't want to move, you need to get help for these things. These could be intrusive thoughts. These could be thoughts of heartbreak, fears that are creeping in. It's not about, this isn't about, it's almost like I'm getting this like feeling of it's coming across as the Five of Swords, where it's almost like do this at all costs. Like it's like an all or nothing mentality, when it's like you have to see the gray area in order to find the compassion for yourself, right? That's how this is coming across. Certainly with, it's not a bad thing to want the fullness of somebody. This is emotional availability, right? This is emotional unavailability. So if you've been in that place, it's like someone couldn't love all of you because you were holding back too. So it's also taking responsibility of that as well. And that's where this massive shift takes place. That's where massive cycles end. And it's like there's a cycle that is ending here. You're cycling out, but at the same time into something else. And I do feel like it is fated. Shit, if it's not something to do with past life connections, I would be shocked. I would be quite shocked. The Six of Cups, it does indicate that kind of connection, that depth of connection. So it's like if maybe you didn't realize that you were trying to pull in, or were in the process of pulling in some kind of soulmate. This could also be soul family with the Six of Cups, but these enriching connections, right? But first you have to, it's almost like getting out of your own way, but in a way that's really compassionate. Because when we say get out of your own way, it can sound really harsh, right? So find ways to soften it so it doesn't come across as a blow, if that's what you're used to. 3131 was just on the time. So if that's what you're used to, right? It's like, it's not just about allowing yourself to love things and people. It's about letting them love you back, right? Letting them love you back, and being able to say that to other people. Okay, all right. I'm just gonna pull a couple clarifiers on right on the bottom. Jeez. Spirit, what messages do you have for my creative collective, please? Yeah. It's the cycle that's ending. 10 of Swords. Like it's like, it's done. It's done and dusted. Your disappointment, your defensiveness, offering very little of yourself, feeling left out in the cold. There's so much more that's available to you now. And that's like, this is Pluto energy. And this strikes me as like, not just a decision, but this is like the work that you've put in. This is like justice meeting you on the path. This is you being given. It's almost like you may have felt like where you're like, where there was like very little support, very little divine support, or, if you were in a void or the void and felt like you weren't being carried through, you are. This particular judgment card has an aspect of transformation, but it's the transformation through awareness. It's the transformation through spirit seeing you, being seen and validated by spirit, not just people, right? Because when people do it, that can be like candy to our brains and spirits. But this is like spirit itself saying, you were never alone. You don't have to do this alone. And there's so much more available to you now. This is like a big one, 3333 on the time. This is like a big realization, right? It's a big realization. So I feel like it's stepping into that. Yeah, and it does have to do with with that heartbreak, right? I can't make this shit up. I just can't make this up. I can't, right? Three of Swords, Justice, and the Wheel of Fortune. It's probably coming out in the reverse order. I don't know for sure how it's showing up for you, but, right? There's so much more available to you now, so you don't have to carry these. They don't become, mementos of things that you survived. You don't have to carry them anymore. And then you rise up in this justice, this Libran energy. And the Wheel of Fortune, again, fate, destiny. I can't make this up, right? It could be something to do with all of the transits happening right now. I know I've been looking into more, like my vertex is in Scorpio. And I just keep, like, I don't know how that plays out or comes across all the time. Like it's like it has a lot to do with fate and destiny, and then even the nodal axes at play being Taurus and Scorpio. It's like there's mega transformation happening, and I keep seeing, like Soul and Destiny by Alan Cohen, like all of these things coming up, where it's just like you have to let things. This is part of what I'm learning about the idea of your fate being outside of your control. It's not about control. It's not about having, a hand in what's happening. It's about allowing spirit to carry you through where you are, because the things that meet you on the path, the people that meet you on the path, the love that meets you there, all of it can be placed in service to your highest healing and your highest good. Right. And I mean, I say that having gone through a lot of shit myself. So I get it. Right. This is almost like doing right by yourself. How did it come out here? This is like doing right by yourself and honoring the part of you that deserves a happy ending. And this is what happens, right? That needs to fall away. And you do. I feel like you definitely do. Like there's so many signs here where you're like leaving all of the pain. 10 of Swords, 5 of Pentacles, showing up small when you're the fucking Empress. Like these are all ways that you can play really small. And then it's almost like spirit saying, like, intervention, pause. Have you considered your brilliance? Have you considered all of the ways that you show up in the world in a completely different way than you think you do, right? Your magnitude. And that's not necessarily the traditional interpretation of this card, I know, but it's coming across intuitively like that. But it's just like all of this energy here. You don't need to be in pain all the time. You deserve so much more. And it's not about moving past. Like, I feel like it's very quick. Like this falls away very quickly, but you need to understand that there's a hand of fate here. There's something like this could be, we think about things outside of our control with fate. I said it already, but one of the things that I'm learned from that book, Soul and Destiny by Alan Cohen, is that like things are going to happen regardless of our hand in it. Right? People talk about being on the bottom end of the wheel of fate or the top end, and the celebratory nature of the top, and, the choices that you make and doing all this stuff. It's like, yes, they do. They do reward you, but it's not about doing it for the sake of the reward. It really isn't. It's really not. This is about honoring yourself and that being what leads you. Because this idea of fate being like, I knew someone once that said, like, he was so excited to do good for other people because he was so thrilled for his blessing, and his blessing would come. And I was like, well, then you're kind of like toying with and negotiating with God, because then it becomes a performance where you do good, but you disconnect from it because you're doing it for you. So you're doing it for this applause, and then eventually you're going to resent the shit out of spirit, God, whatever, right? So you're going to resent that. What? Right? Like, and it's like, we have to get out of the idea that we're doing something for the expansion. And this is what I'm learning from going, back into the dark internally to heal it, to heal the remnants of what was, left behind on the path as I've gone through my own spiritual awakening and dark night of the soul, and then the void. And now it's coming back out of that. Right. So it is about, it's almost like realigning your relationship to the things that have happened before, because there are certain things that are going to happen or come that you won't be able to explain. And the only way that you will be able to explain it is that you deserve it. The only way that you will be able to explain it is that there's something bigger at work, that like maybe life loves you and supports you fully, perhaps more than you were allowing it to. Could come in the form of partnerships, could come in the form of deep emotional recognition, but you have to let it. You have to allow it, right? I was thinking about the Rumi poem in terms of talking about, all the love that we deny ourselves in a lifetime, where it's like the task of love is not to seek it, but to remove all the blocks against it that we put up in our lives. And I feel like that's what this is really speaking to. That's what this is really speaking to. Okay, let's pull from the Universe Has Your Back cards that found me in such a joyous way. Okay, Spirit, what messages do you have for my creative unconscious collective? Feeling this deep love and support today. I'm hearing the song Heal Over. Heal Over by KT Tunstall. Heal Over. Maybe someone needed to hear that. I just thought of the Six of Cups and I heard the song Further Than Feelings by Joel. Oh, I'm going to botch the name. I think it's Joel Bakn. I'm tempted to say. Further Than Feelings. Okay, a lot of messages came out. In every moment, the universe is conspiring to bring me toward right-minded thinking and the energy of love. Instead of praying for an outcome, I pray for the highest good for all. And that's a big part of it too, right? Detach from outcomes. Pray for the highest good of all. Oh, I choose love no matter what. Yes. Yeah. When I accept the love of the universe as my primary teacher, I will always be guided back to the light. And it's almost like this is like what it feels like, being guided back to the light of yourself, being guided back to the light of your being, to your knowing. This is like a consciousness elevation. And if only because you're finally clearing the windshield, right? You're clearing the windshield of bugs that may have gotten stuck there on a journey from point A to point B. You're clearing it, and that's a brilliant and beautiful thing. So don't be afraid to really let it, to really be in full awe of how you're held, to be in full awe. And again, this is showing up, the Wheel of Fortune is showing up twice because I feel like there's something fated that's either here or coming, or I feel like it's like, there's like a constellation, it's orbit. Thank you. That's the one that I'm looking for. It's like in your orbit. And it's like, how are you honoring yourself to be able to recognize this? One, but two, how is it that it's like when these synchronicities show up, like this deck, right? This very deck, or that Louise Hay book where she talked about that chapter. It talked about it in a chapter. I never knew she wrote about that. But for the first time in so long, I felt like that part of me that was that experienced harm in a situation was met with a guide. And it may sound arrogant to say, but I do feel like Louise Hay is a guide of mine. At least through this like past while, it's so strong. But just being held and seen in that moment, 4242 on the time. It's like being seen in that moment and being held through it by a teaching that I didn't even know existed, through someone who had such a huge impact on my life, as if to say, it's okay for that truth to come out. It's okay for that truth to meet with the light of day. Wheel of Fortune. If I didn't think I was enough and I didn't receive it, or I dismissed it, or I was ignorant to the magic and the way the universe sees me and wants to love me, I would have missed it, right? Same thing with this. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it was so ridiculous. It was the last one. It was the last one on the shelf. Like, it was just waiting for me, which, again, it might sound arrogant to some people, but that's how it feels. And that's what the Wheel of Fortune can feel like. Like, maybe life is just arranging things perfectly because you just deserve to smile. You deserve to be free. You deserve to be liberated. But maybe some of these things happen because it's just because the universe likes to see you smile, right? Something as simple as that. But first you have to believe that. First you have to believe that you're worthy of that. And then there's a cascade of good. And I feel like the cascade of good is coming and you're finally letting it in. Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to pull one from the Notes from the Universe on Love and Connection deck by Mike Dooley. Spirit, what messages do you have for my creative collective? Do something new. Do something different. Ever notice how it's easy? Ever notice how it's easier to fall in love and fallen in love with when you're busy? I'm going to pull one more. I go where you go. This is like, you got guidance, my friends. You've got the guidance. Just trust. Just trust. Yeah, this was on the bottom. I can't make this up. 4444 on the time right now. Like, karma's on your side. Wow. Okay, so this reading was huge, but if it resonated, please give it a like and subscribe. I'd love to have you on the channel if you're not already. Do remember that the universe has your back. It's sometimes it feels like it's unfathomable, but in those moments, it's when it's the most comprehensible to your spirit. You are worthy and deserving. So if you did join me for my subscriber base, thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me. So thank you. It means so much to me and I really appreciate it. And as always, wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, my friends, morning, afternoon, or night, I hope it finds you very well. Take care.